Hey y'all, just want to do a quick video. Had several questions, feedback, questions, comments that came in as a result of uh, doing a custom mod on my 2000 Chevy Corvette C5 filler plate. And you should be able to see the contrast here against this background of white table. You can see I've gone with mesh and stainless steel mesh. I've added in some custom lettering, and I got a little bit of door guard trim on the cutout for my filler plate. But just wanted to give you a quick background. I like to tell car stories. A lot of times I feel like I'm late for the prom. This is going to be a long story, so if you're not a C5 person, just go ahead and swipe left now. Sometimes I feel like I'm late for the prom because when I wanted this car, I was a lot younger. I was in college when the car first came out, and now I'm telling my age. But I couldn't afford the car. It was more than I could afford. And so for years I've been dreaming about getting into a Chevrolet Corvette C5. This is my dream car, but I've just not been able to afford it until now. So a lot of the information that I find that's relevant to the modifications that I want to do with a little bit more hands-on modification, I'm finding information. My top source is definitely Corvette Forum, CorvetteForum.com. If you are not on Corvette Forum, highly recommend. If you're a new guy, you're new to Chevy Corvette, maybe you're into the drift scene, maybe you're just into drag racing or cruising. If you need to do some mod work on your Corvette, it is still the best source that I've found where you can find only Corvette owners and get firsthand experience and knowledge and pictures. That's where I found the information for my filler plate mod. And a little bit of background on that. So, basically the Corvette is a solid nose on the Corvette C5. Not a lot of openings for airflow. Those have been addressed in later models with the C6 and the C7 opening up the front of the vehicle to get better airflow. The C5 actually came with this as the filler plate. You can see I've cut that out, obviously. In a lot of states, I'm here in the South. Our state does not require a license plate, but in a lot of states, you have to have a front license cover, license plate because of the law. You have to have a license plate on the front and the back of the car. But for states like mine, where you don't have to have that, this becomes a mod option. And I've seen so many pictures, great mods. Most of them follow a similar format with a cutout. I've seen several mods where the cutout is simply below the stock Corvette lettering. I've seen cutouts where there's an oval above and below the lettering, and I've seen cutouts like mine with the entire filler plate, I call it a nose cap, cut out. And so why would you do that? If you're starting to modify your car, the more that you do to your engine, and the more that you do to lower the car, Corvettes are bottom feeders. All their air coming to the radiators coming off the ground underneath the front end. There's no airflow coming through the front of the car. This is why it's a possible mod for you to open this up. You could utilize this for a variety of things. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with my engine temperature. For me right now, I'm running down the road using water wetter. I have a bottle or two of water wetter in my radiator, in addition to my antifreeze. Before water wetter, my temperatures are running about 215 to 220. After water wetter, I run pretty consistently 196. When I get on the interstate, higher speeds, that drops down to about 192. And I'm just using the Dash Information Center to get those readouts. But opening up the nose on the front of my Corvette, my hope is that this is going to provide some additional airflow getting into the engine bay and the radiator area, probably more for the engine bay just because of the configuration, but hopefully this is going to provide some additional cooling. So wanted to run through a couple of things that I did. One of the things that I really wanted is I wanted to maintain a more factory look for the car. I don't have a heavily modded car. I have a dream list that's big, and some of those projects will come down the road when there's money for it. But I work every day. I work in an office. I'm not a mechanic. I don't turn a wrench for a living. Never built an engine. So full disclosure, this is the first time I've taken a cutting wheel to something that I love, and it was painful. So, why did I do that? Again, I want to open up a little bit more power to my car. It's summertime. You can see those temps starting to climb. And, with future mods, whether it's a turbo, whether it's an intercooler, whatever the case may be, maybe an upgraded transmission cooler, this provides an opportunity for you to do those where in the Corvette, the way that the front is configured, there's just no airflow. That's why I did it. But again, I wanted to maintain a custom look. This is the original that I cut out. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. And, the original has Corvette lettering. I've obviously added the glossy domed letters to fill in those indentations or that embossed lettering that came factory from Chevrolet on the C5. And I've always loved that contrast. My car's black and red, obviously, so I try to stick with a black and red theme. So this is what I did. I wanted to stick with the stainless steel mesh. This is in keeping with, the Z06 mesh theme. For you guys out there with, the Z06, this. This is the standard for that vehicle. But I picked up the information off a Corvette forum. And, back in the day when this car was about 4 or 5 years old, people were taking pictures and posting a write-up on the internet. Well, if you think about it, back then, there was no such thing as a video like I'm doing now. I mean, they were, but not really in the format of Instagram or YouTube. So people took pictures, they probably already plowed in the time, and that's about all the information that you got. This thing has been dubbed the $50 mod for all the time that I've been watching Corvettes. And the reason behind that is, it used to be you could buy a piece of mesh, spend 50 bucks, cut a hole, pop it in, at least that's what everybody said, and boom, there it is. But I think what a lot of those guys did not post in their information online is there's a lot more to this than just cutting a hole. And I want to show you those components really quickly. Also, think about this. I have lettering on this piece of mesh, and I want to show you a couple of components that become a challenge when you try to do things like this, whether it's lettering, whether it's a badge, maybe it's just some marketing, or maybe it's your custom ride name, whatever it is that you want to display here. You have to think about how am I going to get a piece of mesh and do that together. Couple of quick notes. So there's not a flat surface on a Chevy Corvette, period. Everything is curved. And so you probably can't see this in the video very well, but you actually have a curve that is going horizontally. And this nose plate, filler plate, is also curved vertically. Okay, so in addition to that, we sort of have a delta shape. And by delta shape, talking about from this corner we come to a peak, and this corner we come to a peak. Here at the bottom, you might be able to see that a little bit better, coming to a peak and coming to a peak. And then all four corners are rounded, but we have a less sharp degree curve here and a sharper degree curve here. It really shows up when you look at the final product. The lazy curves, the broad arc, this door guard trim fits really nicely in the corners. You can see in the sharper corners, it gets a little bit of a pinch look going on. So think about that if you're planning to do this mod. And that's really what this video is all about, is sharing information about what I learned from the mod. The real information to share about this mod is probably on the back side. So let's just peel back the curtain and show you the real deal here. If you're thinking about putting a badge or letters on your Chevy filler plate with mesh like this mod, there's absolutely nothing to connect this mesh with this piece of fiberglass. And it's kind of like Duraflex. I'll set this aside for just a second. When I say Duraflex, I'll show you a couple of things. Very flexible material. This is super strong. It's a lot like plastic, but you can see it's actually, and I don't know how well you can see this in the video. Hopefully you can see this. You can see this fiber. Probably looks like, maybe long black hair here in the video. This is fiber, as in like fiberglass, okay? Like fiberglass, and it's an overlay over plastic. So very durable, super durable material, not so easy to cut, and you have to figure out how am I going to bond something, preferably permanently, with plastic so that it's going to stay put, okay? Go back and think about this just a second. When I pulled my nose cap off, Here's a couple of things that I discovered. You can probably see the chip. This has been my obsessive compulsive disorder has been focused on this little chip in the paint for 2 weekends now. It's about to drive me crazy. When you have this up close to your face, you can see this. When it's on the bottom of your car, 4 inches off the ground, it's not a big deal. But there are a lot of pits in this paint. I have no idea if you're going to be able to see this in the video. I'm trying to get this up close to the camera. A lot of pits in the paint. You might be able to see I actually have a dent in my filler plate. Probably can't see that, but there it is. Hopefully I can move that so that you can see this in the video. And at the top of my filler plate, I also have a crack. And why is that? I mean, this is the most forward point on the front of a Corvette C5. It's what you bump into when you park. It's what everybody else bumps into when they park in front of you. So a lot of wear and tear happening on this little piece right here. This is the kind of material that will take that kind of beating. This is going to take it all day long. You can see this is super durable, great material. Kudos to GM for coming up with something great. If you ever wondered, by the way, this thing, it says plastic coat, made in Canada. It actually has a little grid that tells you what year models this was applicable for. It's pretty cool. The grid starts up here. Mine actually says 96 at the top, and it runs through 03. Interestingly enough, the last dot on the grid shows the 1, 2, 3, third month of 98, even though mine is a 2000. So kind of interesting when you look at the fitment of parts and how they cross over to other year models. All right, out in the weeds with that. Sorry. Back on track. The magic happens back here. If you want this to be durable, this is what I did. Took those letters, super glued those on, super glued the super glue, covered the super glue with hot glue, covered the hot glue again with paint. And why would I do that? I want to show you real quick. Hopefully you can see this contrast. If you're looking at this at an angle, then you can actually see the edge of these letters, and you can see some of that glue that's here, okay? So I had to hand paint this. This is something I couldn't stand the contrast. I could see clear glue. It caught the light, and it sort of looked like a jewel. It's kind of like a diamond booger hanging in my stainless steel, mesh, and that really, again, just deeply disturbed me with my OCD. As a matter of fact, my OCD is breaking out. I see a piece of hot glue right there that's driving me nuts. All right, I digress. Look, I ended up taking command strips, okay? So if you don't know what command strips are, ask your wife or your girlfriend that hangs the pictures on the wall. They'll tell you. Command strips, any Home Depot. I picked up a 15-pound rating. This is what you can put stuff up on the wall. It's a fancy Velcro strip, okay? Yes, you can use Velcro. I don't like Velcro. I have Velcro on some mesh on other parts of my car, and it is just really floppy. It's flexible for sure, but it has a tendency to get fuzzy. And when that Velcro on the soft side gets fuzzy, it has a tendency to lose its strength. So, like for example, my mesh on the rear vents on the back of my Vette, you can touch that. You can touch that mesh on the back of the car, and this whole mesh is moving back there. I wanted something that was solid. Again, if some idiot backs into my car, or I'm an idiot and I pull too far forward, I want to be able to get pressure on this, and I want this to last. I'm trying to build something durable. So I went with command strips here. You should be able to see command strips across the pressure points. This is the bend in the bottom. You can see I know the white here. This is command strips across the top. And I went with a piece of a command strip in the bottom corners. So after shaping this as best I could, you actually have to bend this mesh. That's a problem after I've glued my letters that are somewhat flexible but not entirely flexible onto the front of this mesh. I have to bend this to mold and conform. Definitely a challenge. After I did that, mesh, just like with the letters, does not provide a good contact point for bonding with this adhesive, this double-sided tape on the command strip. So, trying to be innovative here. I'm not a manufacturer. I'm just a guy but I'm trying to do the $50 mod, and you know, this is a challenge to make this mesh stay put. So what I came up with is an idea to create a bond by using hot glue. So I actually took the hot glue gun, put the hot glue directly on the double-sided tape, and connected each of those waffles with the next with a strip of hot glue. The corners, because the pressure is in the middle, I actually contact the filler plate really well. I put some hot glue in the corners, and again did the same thing across the bottom. Ended up having to bend this. I'm sure you can't see this on the video, but I ended up having to bend the mesh up at the corners. Again, this curve is just insane. We have a curve, you know, going towards the camera in this direction, a bend in this direction, and then a curve downward, all in the same corner. So a lot of work with the metal to make sure that this fit. And I tried to leverage that by making these turn into, you know, like a kickstand or a foot that would make this entire mesh just rest right there. And that kind of takes the pressure off of all this trying to hold this into place. All right, I've been talking forever. Look, one more quick point. All the information that I saw with write-ups shows that, you know, you can go to McMaster-Carr and order the same stainless steel mesh that's used with your Z06 screens, and that is absolutely factually correct. Great quality, great product. They were a great company. They're not a car parts company, but I ordered that, and it was at my doorstep in like 2 days. This ended up costing me about $38-40. It's a 12 by 12 sheet, and what I wanted to show you is your nose plate, filler plate, is not 12 inches wide. So all the information that I read says that, you know, 12 by 12, you can do 2 of these. That's only partially correct. My preference would be to get a piece that is 14 inches wide. And I don't know if you can see this or not. Probably can't see it. I'm going to grab my compass here. That's one more thing I need to show you. I don't know if you can see this coming through on the camera or not. Probably can't, but I can actually get an ink pen in between the mesh and the edge of my door guard. Okay, that goes for both sides, if you can see this. But why is that? It's because when you take your cutter, whatever method you choose to use, and cut, the only way that I could figure out how to get my door guard to lay flat like it should around the edge of a door was to cut right up to the edge of my stock Corvette letters. And so you can see I cut through the edge of the C and I cut through the edge of the E, and so that's as close in as I could get. If I got any closer, when I put my door guard on, the edge of the original letter emboss would stick out and just look like crap. Nobody wants something stupid looking on the front of their Corvette. So that's why I had to cut it here. Again, we go back to the curve. This whole video is about the curves. From here to here in a straight line. Sorry, you probably can't see that. From here to here, it's upside down. From here to here in a straight line is absolutely 12 inches all day, every day. The difference here is you're actually going to go up a hill and down a hill. So you need to add at least an inch to cover that terrain, if you want to use that analogy, to get a piece of mesh. So again, we're taking flat mesh, we're trying to fit it into a curved, arced, and rounded hole, and it just doesn't work. I'll show you the flaws here. Okay, now that the cat's out of the bag, here's the deal. If you look in this direction, if I'm standing at the front passenger side, or front driver side of the car rather, looking across at the passenger side, I'm going to see a big gap right here. Okay, this is a flaw in my design because I didn't backtrack. I had all this time into this before I cut my hole. So again, it would make a lot more sense if, you know, I had taken all this apart, measured this out, picked up that 14-inch piece from McMaster-Carr instead of this 12-inch, and then I would have plenty of material to work with. This side, again, if I spin it around, in this case, I'm looking across the other direction of the car, you're going to see a gap, okay? So I plan to solve this in one of two ways. I can either mask this with some tape, or some glue. Probably not going to do that. I'm probably going to make sure that inside of my new air tunnel that everything is painted black so that it's shadowed out and it's going to fake out your eyes. The other thing is just not able to bend this because I went with the letters. So if you were thinking about doing letters or a badge on your filler cap as a custom mod, you want to go ahead and bend your metal first and then backtrack and add your letters. I could only bend so far without basically eroding the integrity of the work that I did to add the letters onto here. So in reality, if you look at my design, you can't see it head on. If you're looking at it head on, it doesn't show up. But if you're looking straight down at it, kind of like this, it's like a shadow box. You can see a huge gap. I can actually get my entire finger underneath the door guard in between the mesh and the edge of the filler plate. Okay, again, head on, you can't see that, but looking straight down at it, which is much more the angle that you're looking at if you're really close to the car, you're going to notice that. So again, I took some glue, filled in this gap, painted it black. It's just faking your eye out so that you can't see that. You can definitely see it on the back side. You can see all of this tape and all of this glue going on. I wanted this to be super strong. I wanted it to remain flexible. I think it's going to hold up. I'll do another long talking video and keep you posted in the future. All right, last note. When you go to cut, this is what I cut with. First of all, couple of notes. When I traced this out, I left my filler plate on the car and I used the compass. The compass, this is not what a compass usually looks like. You can see some electrical tape going on. Let me move this so you can get some contrast. You can see some electrical tape going on here. I cannibalized a cheap ink pen and I taped it on so that I could extend this, and I obviously have used a Sharpie and taped this on to my compass. Okay, so again, if you remember this from middle school geometry, we can use this to trace, especially when we're tracing angles, and there's a lot of arcs, as I mentioned. This is a perfect way to create your own tool to trace what you want to cut your hole. And so I left my filler plate on the car, and this is what people didn't tell me, is that I don't have an eye, I don't have a steady hand, so I need something like this tool to create perfect lines for me to follow when I cut. So that's exactly what I did. I literally took the long tip of the pen, put this in the gap between the filler plate and the bumper, and I used the Sharpie to literally trace that line, especially with the curves, coming around just like this to trace those curves. And that's how I went all the way around and came up with the width. What width did I choose? I went with a 1 inch. You probably can't see this on the compass. It's not that big a deal. But I went with a 1 inch gap. I wanted to maximize the airflow with this space. If I'm going to do the mod, I want to take advantage of as much airflow as possible for my Corvette. Again, hopefully future projects with some more money. Next up, so a lot of people say, oh, this is thin material, you can cut this with shears or snips or whatever. That is an absolute lie. I don't know how people were able to do that, but again, this is it's about 3/8 of an inch thick. It's plastic, it's fiberglass, and then we have a little bit of paint on top of that. What I ended up having to do is I created a pilot hole by drilling. You can see my pilot hole right here. I created a pilot hole, drilled this with a drill, created an opening, and that gave me enough space to come in with a Dremel tool. I used a Dremel Micro. I like the Micro because it's wireless. I don't have to drag cords all over the place. I don't have a lot of shop space. I have a very small garage. So, again, this is pretty straightforward. It's a Dremel tool. I'm cranking that up onto the 2800 RPM mark. Just like that. And I literally, traced this. I have a wheel on here right now. This is not what I used. I literally traced this using the cutting tool to cut this. Now, I'll have to do another video and show you what happens with the cutting wheel. That's what I have on here right now. I did not use the cutting wheel. I used one of the cutting bits And that's what I wanted to show you, is what happens with the cutting bit. So again, it's rotary tool, rotating, and this is plastic. I keep mentioning this is plastic. So with that high speed, we're creating heat, and plastic starts to melt. Okay, so as I did that, you can see all this frayed edge, and I had to figure out if I went in a certain direction, it would put the frayed edge on the part that I'm going to discard, and it would put the smooth edge on the part that I want to keep. And so depends on your rotary tool which way that rotation's going, but you need to figure that out. And you can see exactly what happened with my thinking. Again, I drilled my pilot hole right here. I don't know if you can see this in the video. You probably cannot. You should be able to see there's a smooth place right here. Okay, smooth place right here. I was going in the wrong direction. It put the smooth part on the discard piece and all this fuzzy on the filler plate that I want to maintain. So I only went about an inch, got myself an education, turned around, went back the other direction, and you can see I went the rest of the way, all the way around, with all the fuzzy on the part that I'm going to throw away. Okay, so smooth edge, again, I know the video is probably terrible contrast, it's bad lighting, it's dark today, I don't have a lot of lights down here. Hopefully you can see super smooth edge here, and that's what is desirable for putting your door guard on. So the smooth edge is what I picked up all the way around here. On that inch, that was just about right here. I had to come back and do a lot of work to mill this down. And so, again, these are tips and tricks. You're probably tired of listening to me talk. I am too. Hope this helps you if you're thinking about doing the $50 mod. I have about $150 in this. So, you know, price out your items. I hope you learned something from the information that I shared today. And as always, get your car out of the garage, drive it. That's what they were built to do. I hope this helps you with the project that you're interested in. And until next time, enjoy that Corvette and be safe.